So hi everyone, my name is Lívia Padilha, and as Richard mentioned, I've done some studies in Australia. That's when I met him, and I'm Brazilian, as you might have guessed from my accent. And I've been very interested in the intersection between health, nutrition, sustainability for many years now. And I've studied business in my bachelor in eco design. Then I went to sustainability networks in my master's. And then in 2013, I got very interested more into nutrition and went back and studied nutrition for a while. And then I realized there is a fertile field between meat consumption and health, sustainability. And then I decided to pursue my PhD in this area. And then I went and traveled to Australia and got actually, I'm finishing now my PhD in the GFAR, so University of Adelaide, in the Center of Global Food and Resources. And I've been studying meat consumption and also like traditional meat, but also consumers' perceptions on sustainable meat and alternatives as plant-based meats and lab-grown meat. So that's what I've been doing. And last year, I also have translated to Portuguese all the infographics from a book called Sacred Cow, The Case for Better Meat, which is a book written by a nutritionist, Diana Rogers, and Rob Wolf. And I think this kind of content brought some attention for the work that I've been doing. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember accusing you of not being of not being very open to us English speakers, because a lot of your content on Instagram is actually in Portuguese.
It's in Portuguese, yes. So sorry, guys.
It's all right, that's totally fine. I think we need more research like that, like all of these issues are cross-cutting across languages and across cultures and across borders. So it should not just be available in English. It should be available in other major languages. And that's a very good job you are doing. So
yeah.
Well done. I think that's enough for me to learn one more international language. I cannot just rely on English,
Yeah. And I've been realizing that. So when I was doing my research, and as you know, I've done more than 90 interviews, more or less.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to people, I realized that even in Australia, they didn't know a lot of things about regenerative agriculture and other aspects of sustainability.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, I should definitely do some Portuguese work so Brazilians can also know about this. So
that's a great job you're doing.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, so my first question for you today is, of course, from a sustainability perspective. And like from that perspective, what is an ideal burger to you?
Well, many might be surprised, but it's not a plant-based burger. It's my perspective. So I'm gonna tell you what I've learned.
Yeah.
So after I got to know Alan Savory, Joe Salatin from Polyface Farm work, and Diana and Rob, as I mentioned in their book and film, it's clear to me now that a burger, like my perfect burger, would be a grass-fed and grass-finished beef burger from an animal that is raised in a regenerative way. So it's produced with holistic management principles. And that would be, for me, good for my body, for the people involved in the production system, for the environment, for the animal. And on top of that, that would taste delicious. So that would be my
so just a quick
answer.
Just a quick question. I'm not to test you here. Is this more about the sustainability, nutrition, or the tastes for you, your perspective?
I think three of them, Richard. So when I think maybe when I was in my bachelor's, like 2009 or even further than that, I was myself thinking of reducing meat, like especially red meat, and thinking about health issues, environmental issues, moral issues. So I was really concerned about these three. So when you talk about taste, sometimes people think, oh, I cannot like stop eating meat or reducing because it tastes really good. But this is not the case, like for my ideal burger. So I've been learning since then. I've never become vegetarian because I've started researching, and the more that I learn about these things and got involved, I realized that not for many people, you might think it's not like for religions concerns or other things. It's not like they would not eat animal source foods, but in my case, for a nutritional perspective, a sustainability perspective, that actually it's we have more pillars in sustainability. So we have the environmental, the social, the economic, and the cultural pillar. So we actually, when we talk about sustainability, we are talking about being healthy. So for me, this is really important, the livelihood of people involved in the process. So this is kind of my like combo in my perspective.
Yeah, that's very multidimensional.
yeah, that's why it's so complex. That's
yeah, that's great. And back to that question, I understand about this plant-based and animal-based the stories between the plant-based and animal-based products. And I would like to know, are plant-based are plant-based products as good as the traditional ones in terms of its nutritional content? You know, can we get as much protein from this plant-based products that we are crusading for, you know, and pushing for at the moment?
Yeah, actually, when we look at sometimes at the nutritional table, nice.
I'll share that properly now. So
okay, that's good. That's good, Richard. So guys, just so you know, this infographic that Richard is putting up is from the book that I mentioned before, that I translated some infographics. So this book here, Sacred Cow, The Case for Better Meat. This book has more than 18, I think 20 infographics like this. So they actually dig into the nutritional, the environmental, and the ethical case for better meat. And in this case, they are comparing beef and beans. So usually we would have something like beans and rice to have the complete profile of amino acids, so the protein components. So in this case, you can see the same amount, so here the same amount of beef on the left and my left, and beans on the right. So we would have many of the let's say the optimum, the percentage on the top. It's the optimum dietary intake of protein, and we will see a lot of these amino acids, which are the names like cysteine, histidine, leucine. These are the different amino acids, and the profile is very important. So we would have a very like a complete and like the green one with the beef, and with beans we wouldn't have this profile, like the percentage that we would need during a day complete. And actually, if we increase, so we usually eat beans here in Brazil as well, beans and rice in Mexico and other places. So we have these traditional foods kind of telling us this is a better way to combine and get all the protein that we have. But then we will end with a problem, which is kind of a big problem today, because we actually eat a lot of calories within that. So we would need more calories to have the same amount of protein in this case. That's why what this infographic is showing us. And actually there is specifically with the plant-based products that are in the market now, there have been, I think a few months ago, a recent study that went and checked all the samples, like many samples, 20 samples, I believe, from grass-fed beef and the plant-based beef alternatives, and they compare and all the samples like in a very like thorough way, and at the end they conclude they are not nutritionally comparable, especially because we have something called bioavailability. So the way that our body absorbs some micronutrients like iron, for example, is quite different when the iron comes from animal foods and when it comes from plant-based foods. So this is a kind of a thing that we cannot only look at the nutritional table and compare, like it's not comparing apples to apples. Let's say we should look into more research that is showing that it's not actually nutritionally comparable.
Okay. That's very interesting, because I can see here that for me, I'm actually into fitness, and I can see that the level
I
of
remember.
fat, yeah, the level of fats from the plant-based, from the kidney beans, is much more lower than that of the steak.
Yeah, from beef. Yeah, actually, exactly. So we should actually look at these as the comparison between the type of meat. So in this case, beef would be like this, chicken would be less fat when we compare it with this, or actually if they're using the kind of the different cuts would be very different as well. Yeah, so we should have a look. Here in the protein, it's let's say one take on this. We also have an infographic for the vitamins and another one for the minerals.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting to see.
Some of those as we go along this podcast.
Yeah.
On to the next question. We are all well aware of the benefits of consuming less red meat, for ourselves and for the planet. We know that like the higher your consumption of red meat, the higher the chance of you contracting the non-communicable diseases like the what do you call those diseases now? The high blood, is it a high blood pressure or the
cardiovascular disease?
Disease and all of that. Yeah. So like from your perspective, which do you think, like, what is much more important to us? Which of these benefits? Is it the benefits of consuming less meat for an individual, or for our planet? Which is much more important? Which should we focus on at the moment?
Well, my short answer actually would be that there is actually, I believe, an infographic about this, but it shows that we are not, especially in the US and other places, that we are not eating too much meat when you're looking into like longitudinal perspective. So since the 50s or 60s, we're not eating too much. Like, I think as we are talking about this subject today a lot, and it's very important that we are talking about this, we are kind of getting the feeling that people that used to eat meat are now eating a lot more. But the idea is, as you know, is that the developing countries that are the ones actually, like when they are getting economic, they're growing and they're like with urbanizations, we are actually going into animal source foods when we are getting the economic way to get these, like if they are available to us. And if we look at so we are not eating too much meat, but we are actually eating too much ultra processed food. So sugar, vegetable oils, that's the ones that are actually skyrocketing in the graphics and everything. This is everywhere, not developed or in the developing countries, so anywhere. And I think actually we should look at the health issues, as we have like chronic disease and everything. And I really like in a kind of a perspective that I really like this saying that is something like an ancestral food cannot be blamed for our modern disease. So what we have today is like there are many modern diseases like Alzheimer's, that it's some specialists call diabetes type 3. They're kind of referring to that because diabetes 2, the type 2 one, is intrinsically related to obesity and other problems. So we have all these chronic diseases that are not that studies now have shown that are not linked with meat consumption, but actually it's the lifestyle and other ultra-processed food that we are consuming. And when people reduce, let's say, ultra-processed foods, sugar, and other things, even if they are in a very high meat or high protein diet, or in a plant-based but very healthy diet, they get better. So it's not actually the meat that it's doing all this kind of damage. And when you look at epidemiology, it's a kind of study that looks into this whole group of people, and they cannot imply causality, but only correlation. So we have a lot of confused variables. Maybe we're too nerdy on this, but yeah, we have a lot of problems with epidemiology. And the good studies that are coming out, like meta-analysis and other things, they are saying that meat, like the consumption of meat, is not really the case for all these diseases. They're usually blamed. And for our planet and environmental sustainability, I would say for some reasons, like reasons we can dive in later, but regarding land use, the feed versus food debate, or even the greenhouse gas emissions, now it's clear for me that we need animals to have a healthy planet. And if we need to change some production systems, yes, we definitely need to change some of the, like, there are many problems, but we should look at those, not one specific, so not on just methane emissions and then let's eliminate ruminants, because they are so important for other reasons. So this is kind of my take on this. I don't know if it's
talking about production. I've got an infographic I would love you to, that's from the same book, Sacred Cows, that I would love you to throw some more light on, and this, the beef isn't a water hog. Can you just from this?
Okay, so I actually have a piece of I'm not seeing, Richard, the infographic. Can you share? Oh yeah, I'm seeing now. So this is a kind of a funny story, because during my PhD, I was once talking to a friend, a Brazilian friend, and she said to me, "Oh my God, I was really impressed because I heard that for 1 kilogram of beef, we need to use like 15,000 liters or something like that." And I said, "Oh yeah, it's a very big amount. And do you know how much of this is rainfall? Or do you think they are putting the rainfall on in this amount?" And she said, "No, they wouldn't, right? They wouldn't say like, this is the amount of water, but then include rainfall. There's nothing." Not such a thing. And I said, "Okay, I will show you something." Then I sent her by the time I didn't have the Portuguese one, but I sent her this one, and she said, "I can't believe that. How they would say like 15 and make me like," it's still like, if we look at this, we have different kind of, so when you are looking into how much, whenever like whichever food is produced, we have different kinds of water. So in this case, we have the little drops. So the green, which is the majority on here, on typical beef or grass-fed, we have from rainfall. So it's the rain that falls and goes into the grass and the cattle eats. So that's the idea. And then we have the blue water, which is the water from lakes, streams, all this blue that we usually would think as like good water that we would need in urban cities and places. And the wastewater, the gray one, is the one that it's necessary to dilute all the manure and other things. But this is different if we look at different ways of production. So in this graphic, we can see the difference between typical beef and grass-fed finished beef. And I recently saw a paper from Brazil that they look into our cattle here, and it's actually 99% of grass-fed, because a majority of our ruminants here are from beef production, are in grass their whole life. So it's actually 99. So this whole like water and very concerns, I think we should be concerned and decrease as much as we can, like water, but the rain that it's going to fall in the grass, like it doesn't matter if the cattle is there or not, it will fall anyway.
That's true. You're right. You know, because like that's the data, the 50,000 or 15,000 liters was actually quite alarming to me, because I was beginning to visualize that in the number of overhead storage tanks.
Yeah, you have some experience.
That 1 kilogram of
and it's a lot. And one time in my Instagram, one time I got a question regarding the comparison between the water from comparison between 1 kilo of beef and 1 kilo of soy. So if you have like tofu or other, and I said, well, it's a lot less for soy. So if you compare, like as we mentioned, nutritionally and other things, you will see like a lot of difference as well. And also we should know, like a soy crop is like we have a few months and then the soy is ready, but beef is not like this. So the animal grows and have the time that it spends on the land, it's longer.
I mean, no doubt, the plant-based meat alternatives are much more sustainable than the beef. Like what do you think about that? From like whichever angle you see it, actually from this analogy you've just given us.
From the environment, well, as I said before, I think from the environmental points, if you look at one specifically, so which kilo of product X, like beef or soy or chicken or let's say beans, can we produce without like with less water? We will say, okay, it's soy or it's lentils or it's, but in this kind of complex and complete way that I see sustainability, not only in one aspect. And as I mentioned, like we can dive into land use. So most of the land in the planet, it's not croppable, like it's not capable of growing crops. So animals are the ones that are like going into rocky incline and very difficult places, and they are good there, and they are producing protein, like, and very good foods for us in these places that cannot be cropped. So we cannot put a soy crop there. And also from another aspect that we can also talk about this, but yeah, I think it's a kind of it's not a like a right, how can I say?
Right,
it's not a it's not a, as we mentioned before, sustainability has many angles. We can look at these pillars, and I think people are really like the center of this, and we need to think about health. And for me, animal source foods are very nutrient dense, and even more than other plants. And it's not like don't eat plants. No, that's not what I'm saying. Like our diets are based in plants, but we need animal source foods. And I think they're very nutrient dense, like hands down.
Okay. Now, I would just love to know like what the situation is in Brazil, because we could tell in Australia it was quite a different situation over there. In Brazil, what is it like? What is happening in the plant-based or meat alternatives ecosystem there? Is there like a huge support for this? You know, corporations like, you know, promotes this amongst consumers? What is it like over there?
Yeah, I think, yeah. When I started my PhD in 2017, I remember like going to Australia and remembering like we don't have much of plant-based alternatives in the supermarket, so we probably had like the first ones, like the first generations that had beans, like a mix of beans, chickpea, and other things, but not like these kind of second generation burgers that are now in the supermarket. And in Australia, I saw this bloom, like, and there's even literature showing in the supermarkets the way that it grew in the past 5 years. So it's quite impressive, like 400% in the last 4 or 5 years. It's quite impressive only in Australia. And I think in Brazil I think we are under the same pressures, let's say, for like going more plant-based or reducing meat in this kind of way. And maybe more because of our role in meat exporting. So we are huge meat exporters, like to US, China, chicken to China. So it's a lot of, but I don't think Brazilians are like, some research shows that I think 14-15% are now considering themselves vegetarian, but I don't think most Brazilians would give up meat, because when they are getting more economic, like when meat becomes more economical viable, like for now we have kind of a economic bad situation and all these things. So reducing meat and going to eggs or other kind of proteins it's a kind of necessity. But yeah, I would think Brazilians wouldn't like give up meat so easy.
Yeah, being the expert that you are, I'm sure I'm sure you've got some policy expectations from government as regards this topic. Can you share some of those with us? You know, what do you expect governments across the world to do as regards sustainability and meat consumption?
Yeah, so I think there are some, let's say, some actions or things that the state could do, like governments could do. But one thing that I've seen, especially from the book Sacred Cow, that I actually understood, like it's more regarding the US, but I think we could look at our countries and see what governments are continuing doing. So since the war in the US, they have a lot of subsidies to produce, so farmers could produce more food. So they have like a lot of subsidies on corn and these kind of things. And it's not a relate link, but you could see like if you produce corn and you have all these this farm with the animals as well, so you wouldn't have the CAFOs and other things. And now when it's economic, so governance in that case make economically viable to have more corn in one land, so they kind of split this and get the feed here, the corn, and then they have all these factory farming and CAFO in other places. So this is a kind of a let's say it gives the market wrong signals, if you could look at this from an economic perspective. So I think one thing they could do is take these subsidies and things back, so they wouldn't give these wrong signals to the market, and farmers and producers would actually would be given the demand. So the demand would be the right side of signals, like they would be the right signals to produce and know what they produce. Because let's say grass finished beef would be more costly to produce than others because of all of these grain subsidies. And another thing I would definitely, so this is kind of a fear that I have when I see some papers suggesting like meat taxes and other things. I would say one thing they shouldn't do is tax nutrient dense food such as meat, eggs, or other things, because I've seen also very good studies. There's one from Kenya, I believe. So African children, when they received 1 egg a day, they had major and like amazing outputs in a period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this study for me, and it's shown in the movie Sacred Cow, and they actually show how the children were and how they grew like faster and had all these other benefits. And I thought, oh, imagine this in the long run. So this is kind of the things, because I think poor people are the ones that are most affected when like we have food taxes, and in Brazil we have a lot of taxes. So we know like poor people are the ones that suffer the most. So I think we should focus on like having like not educating, but telling people like the kind of food we could have better health, but also like not taxing good food and this kind of things.
Okay, thank you very much. I never knew we had taxes for meat, and I'm just hearing about this for the first time.
Yeah, there is
the taxes for sugar and the taxes for
sugar, soda.
Soda,
it's already there. Yeah, but meat, I heard of this some years ago, but I have recently seen like more discussion and things about that. So this is kind of a
well, that's interesting. We're kind of over time now. We've overshot into the next section's time, but I will just have I've got just one last question for you.
Yeah.
And what do you think the youths watching us across the world can do to actually lend their voice to this crusade, to the sustainability crusade?
I think thanks, Richard, for having me today. But I think it's so important that us, like me, not anymore, I'm more like, but I think the youth, like very young age, and we are so like we want to do the good thing, like the best thing for us, for the planet, for people. So I think we should start researching this kind of topic. And I would encourage young people to go and read research on regenerative agriculture, to watch the film Sacred Cow. It's available online. And I think we will learn, like if you look at this, we will learn that we can not only be sustainable, but we can also regenerate our planet while we are producing good food. So it's kind of the win-win situation. Yeah, I think it's my advice.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming here with us today. We really appreciate the time you spent with us and for spilling all of the nuggets of information that you've given.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah. If people want to ask me anything later, they can reach me mainly on Instagram. So I have a LinkedIn, but Instagram it's better. So they can look for my name. So it's Livia. It's here. G-O from my last name, big last name, and Padilha. So the last one.
Livia.
And they can ask me, yes, Livia, G-O Padilha.
So Livia Go Padilha.
Yes, Go Padilha.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Livia, for coming.
Thank you, Richard.
Have a wonderful day. Yeah.
You too. See you.
Yeah, bye.